So this is day 1 on chapter 10. We are only talking about notation and formulas today. There's no application problems. There's no crazy business, okay? I've just printed up some worksheets using CUDA. This is the notes, and then worksheet 2 is the assignment, and it's like problem for problem, the same kind of stuff, okay? Now, I did cut worksheet 2 down so that, I mean, when I ran it off, I had, from last year, I cut the number of problems down, okay? So I tried not to make you practice anything too much, too many times. All right, so first of all, a sequence is simply an ordered list of terms. That's fancy vocabulary for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, or even x plus 1, x plus 2, x plus 3. Okay, that's an ordered list of terms, meaning you got to keep it in order, and it's separated by a bunch of commas. We good? Okay, what makes it arithmetic if there is a common difference? Okay, a common difference. Now that means we're adding something. You can say or subtracting, okay? If it's adding a negative, then the difference is going to be when you subtract two terms. So this is the way. Now, all kinds of crazy vocabulary coming up here. N equals the term number. Write that down. So A sub n is some term. Now, let me write this. This term, this sequence right down here, this is term 1, term 2, term 3, etc. Do you understand what I'm saying? The little subscripts tell you what term number it is. So A sub 1 will always stand for the first term. Think of it this way. Do you remember when you learned pentagon, hexagon, heptagon, octagon, nonagon, decagon, and then your teacher got tired of writing and wrote 11-gon, 12-gon, 13-gon, okay? This, and you wrote on your notes, you wrote n-gon. That means n is some number, okay? So A sub n, when we write A sub n, it's going to either mean a formula for, or we'll say n is 6, and you're going to find term 6, A sub 6. But the subscripts down there aren't squareds, they're not cubes, they're just the term number. All right, for arithmetic sequences, D is just going to be the difference. All right, before I go on and talk about the two kinds of ways you can write an arithmetic sequence, there's one more bit of notation you need to understand. If A sub n is a term that's called n, what would A sub n minus 1 mean? The one before it. It means the previous term, okay? A sub n minus 1 means the previous term. So a fancy definition for the difference of two terms is to take some term and subtract the previous term. That's really bunch of notation right there, but it means to find the difference for this sequence up here, I take any term and I subtract the one before, and that'll tell me the difference. So 15 minus 13 is 2. 13 minus 11 is 2. 11 minus 9 is 2. 9 minus 7 is 2. As long as the difference is the same every time, then it's an arithmetic sequence. Any questions on that business? All right. So the explicit form of an arithmetic sequence means it's based on the term number n. It's based on the term number. So it's going to have an n in the equation when you're done. This is the general form, okay? Any term in a sequence is equal to, what does that mean in words, guys? The first term plus the difference. Now, think about this for a minute. If I want the 10th term, how many times do I actually add the difference onto the first term? One less than that. That's exactly right. Okay, this is the fancy form that's called an explicit form. This means to find any term, you take the first term and you add the difference, n minus 1, or one less time. Okay, I'm going to do an example using this guy right here. He's our sample for the day, okay? So the explicit formula for that equation says to find any term later on, I'm going to take the first term, which was how much? 7, and add the difference. What did we decide the difference was? And I'm going to add it n minus 1 times. I will accept this as an explicit form on the quiz, okay? I'm going to be nice. The book will not, the answer key will not, it will simplify that. 7 plus 2n minus 2 if I distribute, which gives me 5 plus 2n. Okay, I will accept this as explicit. This is the simplified explicit form. Everybody okay? What's n again? The term number. So if I asked you to find term 37 for this sequence, now some of you could do this with your fingers, right? 7, 9, 11, you're going to do 37. I don't have that many fingers and toes, okay? To get to term 37. Actually, I do have enough fingers and toes, right? No, I don't. I have 10 and 10 is 20. I could start over. I get to 40, but anyway. All right. Yes, okay. There's two ways we could, if we already found this version right here, guys, what could we do? Put in a 37 and we'd be done. If we already found this simplified form. If I only knew this much over here and I didn't want to write this crummy formula, I could have said, well, the first term is 7 and the difference is 2, and I need to add the difference only 36 times to get to the 37th term because I already know the first one. So I'd have 72 plus 7 is 79, which is the same thing. You get 74 plus 5 is 79. Okay. Something else I was going to say here. Oh, I was just going to lead into segue to the next part here. The two things we needed to know was the difference. You with me, guys? The difference and the first term. I can say the difference is 2 and come up with a totally different sequence. Do you understand that? If I started with 4, it would be 4, 6, 8, right? Okay. So the two things you need to know are, what did we decide? The first term and the difference, okay? So a recursive form is based on the previous term. It's how I say it anyway. This is what you need to write for a recursive form. You say any term n is the term before it plus some difference. But you also have to tell me what that first term is. I will give you the general form of an explicit equation. On the bottom of the quiz, it will say for arithmetic, a sub n equals a sub 1 plus d parenthesis n minus 1. I'm not going to give you this because you need to understand that to get from one term to the next, all you're doing is adding d, and you have to tell me where it's starting. Okay? So let's see if we paste that on here. What's going on here, guys? To write this as recursive, I write a sub n equals a sub n minus 1, meaning the previous term. Okay, do I need to write that down again? This means previous term. Plus what? What's the difference for this particular equation? 2, where the first term was 7. This is the recursive form. Now, sometimes your book will write things like n has to be greater than or equal to 1 because you can't start with a negative term number, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to make you write that. This is a great, easy form if you want to know term 2, maybe even term 3. Or if you just want to know the difference or the first term, right? It's easy to write this one. The problem is if I want to know term 37, this only works if I know term what? 36. Okay? So recursive form is nice, it's easy to write, but it's not really helpful if you want to know the 35th term because you got to know the 34th, and so on. All right. All that vocabulary is now in your brain. We'll pretend. We'll review it, but okay. What's happening here, guys? Common difference. Most of us can eyeball this and say it's doing what? Okay, so the difference is written as what? -6. Just to be fancy, I'm going to write this. It's up to you if you copy it down. Any term minus the previous term should give you that difference. Everybody okay? You understand the concept? I say that because sometimes you can't eyeball it. And then you need to check. Now, this actually asks, is it arithmetic? So you need to check that it works every time, right? All right, and this one is yes, it's arithmetic, and the difference is 6. So look at the next one. If you want to check, you could do 4/3 minus -1/3. 3 minus 4/3. 14/3 minus 3. And decide if you get the same thing every time and what that same thing is. I'm going to give you the Hofbauer method. I change them all to a common denominator. How do you write 3 so that it's really something over 3? 9. If I go from -1 to 4, I've gone up 5/3. 4 to 9 is up 5/3. 9 to 14 is up 5/3. So I was able to eyeball it only because I wrote that one as a common denominator. But if you do this, hopefully, if you do a math enter, it should be coming out 5/3 every time. Did somebody check any of those? It is a decimal, but as a fraction, you really need to do as a fraction because it needs to be exact, okay? If it was a fraction that is equivalent to an exact decimal, I can live with that. Except this one was in fractions to begin with. So this is yes, and it was 5/3. Anybody looking at 6? What do you think? No, if you subtract here, you get -1. If you subtract here, definitely not working, right? So you just write no when you're done. Right. Number 7 says find the common difference. That means it's arithmetic. Okay, they're telling you it's arithmetic. So what's the difference here? Anybody? Okay. Then write the next 3 terms. What would we get? 28, 31, 34. All right, this one's a little bit trickier. We can cheat. What if we look right there? How much did it, what happened? -2/3. If I wrote these all as thirds, this would be -6/3, -8/3, -10/3, -12/3. You see what's happening? So what's the next term? -14/3, -16/3, -18/3 is really what? -6. So there's the next 3. I love this stuff because this is just patterns to me. Okay, but it can get tricky. I know that, but just telling you, these are just number patterns, okay? Find the common difference, okay? What's going on here? You can do -5 minus 3. -8, is that what's happening? It's going down 8, down 8, down 8, down 8, okay? Okay, how are you going to find the 52nd term? You can write in explicit form, okay? So you could say the first term is 3, the difference is -8, and I'm going to go n minus 1 times. And then what would you put in? You'd put in a 52 to the formula to find the 52nd term. I wouldn't have bothered. I would have just said, I need to take the first term and add -8 51 times, because that's the 52 minus 1 all taken care of. I would have just logically gone to this step, but it's okay. It's the same thing, I promise. Does everybody get why it's 52 minus 1, because that's n? But the minus 1 is because we're only adding it 51 times onto the first term to get the 52nd term. What did you get? So can you try the next one quick? Yeah, I don't know why you would want to. If it asked for the explicit term, I would, but if I were doing this question, I would just say the difference is what? And then I would say the first term plus that difference 51 times is going to give me the 52nd term. I wouldn't write any formula, but it's okay to write a formula. If you wrote the formula, anybody get an answer? 10/16? Yeah. Like that? Anybody lost? Okay. Find the explicit formula means I need to plug in 2 things. What 2 things do I need to plug in? The first term, the difference, 12/5 minus 9/10 is 24 tenths minus 9 tenths is 15 tenths, which is 3 halves. So the difference is 3 halves. You can stop there. I'm going to do what the answer key will have. And what do you want to do? A little math? A little arithmetic? A little fraction work? 9 tenths minus this would be 15 tenths would be negative 3/5. Yep. Is that right? Someone checking? You can do with a math enter on your calculator, right? 9 tenths minus 3 halves, math enter, give you negative 3/5. But this is okay too, as far as I'm concerned. Can you try 12 quick? What's D? So this is okay. Anybody simplify that? So now if I want the 52nd term, what do I put in? 52, right? Because 52 is n. If I wanted the 52nd term, it didn't say it. Yeah. All right, so this one says, this is an explicit, find the first 4 terms and the difference. Anybody eyeball and tell me the difference? Negative 200 is going to be the difference. But how do you find the terms if you didn't know that? Put in a 1 to find term 1, right? And you get? How do you find the second term then? Okay, put in a 2. It's 197 minus 200 times 2 is negative 203. What, have you figured out the pattern yet? Negative 403, negative 603. The difference is negative 200. I don't know. You okay? So can anybody pick out what the difference is going to be on this one? Okay. The problem is somebody's going to tell me the first term is 12.1. And it's not. You got to put a 1 in to find the first term. So the first term is, now it wants, you have to count that as the first term, but the next term is 2.3 more than that. Add 2.3 and you get 19, add 2.3 and you get 21.3, I think. Somebody tell me if I did that wrong. Are we good? 19 and 21.3? I know I was going fast. All right. What is this form called? Recursive. Does it tell us everything we need to find the difference? What's the difference? This one should be really obvious. What's the difference? 2. And how do we start this? Negative 21 plus 2 is negative 19, plus 2 is negative 17, plus 2 is negative 15. By the way, guys, I will give you a question like this on the quiz, and someone will write 5 terms, and I'm going to take off. You have to know that the first term counts as negative 21. Do you understand what I'm saying? When it says write 4 terms, I need you to stop at negative 15 because I need you to tell me I understand that the first term counts as term number 1. Yes. Yes. So do this next one. What do I write? Negative 1.1, and I start with negative 3.7, negative 4.8, negative 5.9. All good? I'm loving it. Okay. Write the recursive. Two parts to this. You have to say a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 plus d, but what's the difference? Everybody okay? These are going down by 9? So you can either write plus negative 9, or you could just write minus 9. I don't care. Just make sure this is a subscript. Mine is kind of big and messy there. What's the other thing you have to tell me, though? We're not done until you also tell me the first term is 16. Super easy to write a recursive formula. Not so handy to use one. Okay? A sub n equals, what do I write over here? A sub n minus 1 minus 1/2, or you can put plus negative 1/2, I don't care. Where a sub 1 is got it? Recursive formula, not so complicated. All right, given the explicit, find the recursive, okay? Did you recognize anything yet? D is plus 30. And how do you find term 1? Negative 26 plus 30 one time, which is 4. So to write the recursive, you'd say a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 plus 30, where a sub 1 is 4. I'm going to skip the next one, okay? Do you need me to give you time to do the next one? Okay. This one says, okay, I'm getting to some trickier stuff here, so I hope you're following. Find the term named in the problem in the explicit formula. How do I write the explicit formula first? Nope, that's recursive. I need the first term. Okay, explicit. Let me write it up here so you remember. A sub n equals a sub 1 plus d times n minus 1. So I have negative 33 plus 8 times n minus 1. Or if you simplified that, you'd get negative 41 plus 8n. Somebody check my math. Okay. And then to find the 30th term, you could do what? So negative 41 plus 8 times 30. Could I have also just said to myself, hey, self, the 30th term is the first term plus the difference 29 times. These are the same difference, okay? I promise, you get the same answer, which is negative 199. Yeah, I'm going the wrong way. Thanks. All right, so this one, what's a sub n? First term, 36 minus 2 and minus 1, which becomes what? 38 minus 2n, maybe? Okay, so the 30th term, you could put a 30 in here, or you could just say the first term and negative 229 times. What is it? Somebody else get negative 22 as the 30th term? We're just getting to the fun ones. All right. We'll pick up from there on Wednesday, because what's happening tomorrow? Quiz.